It's 9:30, March 3rd, 2026, and I'll call the Concord Transportation Advisory Committee meeting to order. Let's start with a roll call here online. Rebecca,
Here.
Nick,
Here.
and in the room, Bill,
Here.
and myself, Mark Aylis. So do we have a volunteer to do minutes? Among those online or present, I think you guys have all recently done minutes.
Yeah, I guess
But
it's my turn.
You'll
So
do it? Okay, thank you, Phil. I appreciate it. Okay, so we have three sets of minutes to approve. The first one goes back to December 9th, 2025. Does anyone have additions or corrections to that?
got you.
Okay.
Um,
Why don't I note, why don't you read them out? I'll note them down and can amend the document and pass it on.
this might be working on people's memories too.
Yeah.
So on number 4,
Mhm.
this is your update, Melissa.
Yes.
Second bullet says Stantec will create a memo which will be posted on project website. Do you remember what the memo?
Are we looking at the same thing?
This is the 9th of December, right?
Yeah, and which item?
Number 4,
3 or 4?
4.
Tax charge discussion?
Yep.
Okay.
And it says Stantec will create a memo
I'm not-
Which will be
I'm not
posted on
getting
the-
same
but-
thing.
on this one.
This is Rebecca. I wrote the minutes. If I recall, it had to do with a summary of the forums.
Okay, all right, great.
Or just.
Elisa, is that right?
It's called the public engagement summary memo.
Okay, great.
That's right, Rebecca.
Okay, so what is the suggested amendment?
So we would just,
Define it more, public engagement summary memo.
Public engagement summary.
Yeah.
Thanks.
and there was another similar, couldn't quite get it. It's the 4th bullet on that says, Alyssa said, MassDOT is looking at a biking pedestrian improvements for Route 62. I think it was not the entire Route 62. Was that just at Route 2, maybe?
It was at Route 2 and 62.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, okay. All right, so I would just propose where it says MassDOT is looking at bike ped improvements for Route 62 and include the words at Route 2 at the end of that.
Yes, sure, that's great.
Just to-
Wasn't there some discussion of it along the Bedford Road stretch?
But not with MassDOT.
Okay,
We've had,
Yeah,
that
that was-
discussion, but not with.
It's
I-
not.
I got-
So I
I got-
Oh, okay.
so I put in a ticket, so we have a choice, just.
Yeah,
if
yeah.
Owl isn't working, I put in
Yeah.
a ticket, so we can use the camera up above.
Yeah, maybe that's.
It
better
does
than
then
doing
just
the-
scroll out because it
I'm
doesn't,
not looking at anybody
That's-
It is-
now.
That's fine. I think that's, the audio is the most, and the slides are the most
Sure.
important thing.
so what happens,
Anything else, Bill?
Uh,
You had some small things?
Yeah, that's better.
So
than if you-
the next item
Yeah.
was on the back, it says TAC discussion. The process says ideally the process start much earlier with public input. And then it says PW to planning to TAC. I think maybe it should just say CPW, so we know what we're talking about. So it's
Mhm.
Concord Public Works and then the planning division, so we know we're talking about the
Yeah,
planning district
absolutely.
division as opposed to planning
Sure.
board.
Yep. CPW and planning division.
And I think that was it.
Okay, great. Any other comments about that? I propose we go through all 3 minutes and then vote on them together at the same time. That's okay? All right, so then the next set of minutes is January 22nd. Any comments or corrections?
And then on that one, on the bottom of the second page, I think there's an extra bullet where it talks about Jeff Collins's
Oh,
comment.
on TAC, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay,
think that just needs to be,
okay,
it's just
so we
a
can
typo.
excise that. All right, any other comments on the January 22nd? Yeah. Okay. Okay, and then, for the, minutes of, February 17th, 2026, I know that Rebecca had mentioned to me she had a concern, and, could you please, Rebecca, go ahead and say what you, are concerned about?
Just a point of mine about the whether this is actually a tool that can be used going forward that I raised in the meeting. That was not included in the minutes. So my request that it be included.
Okay,
Okay, and so where does that go? So there's a phrase here, Rebecca, or it says Rebecca Woodward asked that the ranking tool methodology be made available. And you had a question, you had raised a question of, is it a tool, or how would you phrase that?
I sent you a wording suggestion. Do you want me to just read that?
Yes, please.
Okay, Rebecca Woodward commented that the tool is not really a tool because it cannot be recreated exactly as it was used for existing projects. For example, the People Score includes values based on specific forums that are not planned going forward. Therefore, the tool seems more like a static assessment of current projects rather than a tool that can readily be used to incorporate new projects going forward.
Okay, so I don't recall you explaining it that clearly at the time. Is there a way to capture your question in a way that matches what was said at the meeting more precisely rather than?
Actually, it's in the recording, Mark. It's in the
Oh, it is.
recording.
Okay, then why don't you, you said you sent me that wording and we can add that. Does it go before or after Rebecca Woodward asked that the ranking tool methodology be made available?
It was after.
Okay, okay, so we'll insert that. Any other comments?
We should correct
Uh,
Alan's last name spelling.
Yes, I noticed that. Okay, all right, so do I have a motion to approve these three sets of minutes?
Could you just tell me the dates again? It was the 9th?
The
And-
December 9th,
Yeah.
January 22nd,
Uh-huh.
and February 17th.
Got it. Thank you.
So I'll entertain a motion to
So move,
approve.
move to approve.
Second,
Okay, all right, so Rebecca,
Yes. Sorry.
Nick,
aye,
Phil,
Aye.
Dan,
yes.
Mariana, and myself, aye. Okay, so we're taking care of that item on the agenda. And the next item is chair remarks, and we have a lot of stuff to cover, so I'm just gonna highlight to everybody that on at 4 p.m. Next Wednesday, the 11th, TAC will meet jointly with the Public Works Commission. Public Works will have a couple of agenda items that don't concern TAC, but then there will be a presentation of the paving program, and we'll have some discussion about how that can be how that can be used for safety improvements, and how TAC will support prioritization of future projects, both ones integrated with the paving program and ones that are supported by the additional money that's specifically earmarked for safety improvements. So right now I'll move on to the next item. So what's going on?
The minutes for today.
Phil.
I'm good.
Thanks, man. Okay, so we'll have some transportation related updates from Lisa Sandoval and Melanie Denny.
Hi, yes. I just have a couple of brief updates. Intech will be ready to present the comprehensive transportation strategy at the April 14th TAC meeting. Just wanted to confirm that and make sure that works for everybody. That would be that presentation would probably be the bulk of the meeting. So we would just want to make sure everyone has that on their calendar, April 14th. at 9:30. So there's that one. And then just a brief update, we're kind of looking at an interesting concept. It'll be a little bit of a longer term project working with GIS and looking at potentially geofencing that would, the idea would be to steer trucks off of small neighborhood streets on mapping and driving apps. So this is technology working with the Volpe Institute in Cambridge. So we're interested in this potential partnership. The technology was used during the 250th, so maybe we could expand effort. So we'll keep you posted, but we're kind of working on that with GIS.
That sounds really
Yeah.
exciting. Sounds great.
Could I ask you a quick question? This is a technology that would be installed in vehicles?
We don't know yet. We're just all very preliminary concept that's from the mapping, like from like going, like if you're gonna put it into Waze or put it into Google Maps.
Oh,
That would
okay.
direct you to a route that is like the truck route versus directing you to the shortest route, which is maybe through a neighborhood. Very, very preliminary, just concept if it's even possible. So we're not, don't ask us to have it done next month.
No, understood.
We have a lot to do with our partners in public safety, with GIS. But the concept is that you can tell the services what's closed. So
Mhm.
can you tell the services where to send a
Mhm.
truck? Because I heard some feedback
Yeah.
on that.
And so the other thing is it is something that Volpe Institute did reach out directly to Concord staff about exploring this. So
Okay.
it's not, so there is a willingness on their side and they would be the ones that would have the technology. It's our transportation research think tank in Cambridge.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
so it'd be interesting if we can, I just wanted to talk about it as a concept, so you know that this is happening and we'll kind of report updates as it kind of develops further.
Yeah,
So, but it's
uh,
potentially, exciting and something that might, address some of those concerns about truck traffic on these smaller residential streets. So
It sounds really good. Is there any website or document from Volpe? I mean, please give us updates
oh yeah.
in the future, and if there are any links to more information that's from Volpe, that would be good to.
No information yet.
Okay, but I mean, nothing specific, but I mean, it sounds like this is an initiative. So
Very, very
I'm
small.
very familiar with that organization.
Planted.
Okay,
This
all right.
initiative right now.
Any more updates?
I
So
had the.
Mark, can I ask just a quick request? Is it
course.
possible to turn the zooming off? It's making me dizzy. For people on Zoom, it's
Okay.
going in and out and in and out.
So, sorry,
Yeah,
about
we
that.
have
We
a-
don't want you to be.
We have an
I
owl
appreciate
that's
it.
sleeping. The owl went to sleep here, so we have a,
Well, I can
Backup
switch it
system.
back to the owl, it just is not then focusing on people.
what is it showing, just the room?
Well, what if,
That's also zooming now.
Showing Mark.
Yeah,
I switched. to-
that's okay, I mean.
Mark is definitely better than dizzy.
Clean shirt, so,
Okay, it just doesn't,
Okay.
it's not,
Mark,
all right,
you're gonna be the star.
okay, all right, were there any updates on?
I had a meeting with MAPC.
Yes,
I wanted to
Yes,
report
that's the other
on.
yes, please.
We had a very preliminary concept meeting with MAPC as the kind of coordinator with surrounding towns, Acton, Littleton, Sudbury, Maynard. To name a few on the concept of a through town transportation. We are talking about both like looped or around town, like connection between different options.
Mhm.
So very fixed route versus on-demand routes, like which one people would be interested in, which ones were the best fit, what's worked for our communities, what hasn't worked.
Mhm.
Right now, Acton has a grant in to do a study to get, they haven't heard yet whether or not they got the money for this, but to just do a study between of a capacity and needs for like a regional transportation.
Okay,
Okay.
that's wonderful.
I did receive information from Nick, on what TAC had done or was
Mhm,
interested in.
mhm.
This meeting was very much just, are you interested? And I said, yes, Concord it was interested and then it wouldn't, full acknowledgement that a route like that could not necessarily meet every town's in needs. Like our list of needs, included, some of our needs around main town, downtown Concord for tourists.
Hmm.
And it just wasn't gonna maybe out of the gate be everything, but just to see, understand everybody's wants and needs.
Just a quick question. You said it was Concord, Acton, Maynard, and
Littleton, Sudbury. MAPC, yeah, Acton, Littleton, Maynard, Sudbury,
okay, would be the participants. Okay,
as of right now.
okay, good. Thanks.
Okay, great, thanks. Keep us updated. Sounds really, really good. Okay, the next item on the agenda is updates, a couple of different updates from Economic Development Director Mimi Gramey. Mimi, why don't you go ahead?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for letting me present to you. If I can share screen,
Let's
Can
see.
I just put in my request. Great, thank you very much. I have two projects to update you on. One is a public art proposal that's coming from the DEI committee to celebrate this year's Pride in Concord. They're proposing to create 2 rainbow crosswalks. So folks have probably seen rainbow crosswalks that have been in place all over the world. Very often these are done in either, they can be very temporary, like in chalk. They can be done with paint or with thermoplastic and some of the other more robust materials. Thermoplastic was just very cost prohibitive. You were looking at like $30,000. Chalk is super temporary and can get really messy. And some of the paint approaches can wear very unevenly and basically starts looking poor almost instantly. So the group is inspired by the West Concord Cultural District that had done those sidewalk decals. So they're proposing to do them using those kind of oversized decals and to have it be placed in the gaps on the crosswalk. So this is sort of a ham-handed mock-up of it. This is in front of Eva's Little Kitchen. And right now there's already the sort of banded crosswalk there. The proposal is to do giant decals that would fit into these voids in the crosswalk. And if folks had seen the sidewalk decals in West Concord, they're basically put on like a sticker. There's actually, you just peel and stick. It was done by an outside contractor. And then they get peeled up and leave no trace. So the proposal is to do this in 2 different locations. One here in Concord Center, in front of Vanderhoof's in the crosswalk there. And this is basically where they do the Pride in Concord Center, which it will be happening the first weekend of June. And the proposal is for the crosswalk to stay in place for the month. And then the other one would be here in West Concord in front of Eva's Little Kitchen. Both of the events, there's 2 events happening on the first weekend of June, Pride in Concord Center and Porch Fest in West Concord. And they're sort of looking at doing celebrations for the launch of the sidewalks. For the one in Concord Center, they'll be presenting that to the Historic Districts Commission since that's within their district. The West Concord one doesn't have a historic district in this area, but it would also be presented to staff at Public Works and to the Select Board for final approval. Because these decals haven't been used on a roadway before, we're planning on doing one single decal to just test on how it responds when vehicle movement is over it before we kind of invest in the whole set of them. The West Concord Cultural District is planning on doing their sidewalk decals again this spring. So when the contractor's putting in the sidewalk decals, we're hoping to do one of the single roadway ones to test it and then to be able to put it in place kind of around Memorial Day weekend. Folks are maybe aware that these kind of colorful crosswalks really add a lot to safety. It really highlights the crosswalk and alerts people to the pedestrian movement there. So we're hoping that it'll have the side benefit, not only celebrating Concord pride and local identity, but also helping improve pedestrian safety. So wondering if folks have, before I move on to the other project, have any feedback or thoughts on this project.
I love this idea. I'm totally into it. Could you maybe put on your list of organizations to contact is the West Concord Advisory Commission? I think they'd probably appreciate being advised about the idea. And I think they'd probably be supportive of it.
Great. And I'm meeting with so many committees. I'm not sure if I already alerted them to it, but I'll double check.
Okay, great. No worries. Thank you.
Any-
Great idea. Love
Any
it.
other questions, Miranda?
This sounds really nice. And just in terms of bringing more visibility to crosswalks, both libraries immediately jump to mind. Is there any discussion of doing a second one, or is this more of a pilot in each location? Would you consider adding more crosswalks to the scope?
So this is, again, the first time we're not even sure we're going to be able to do either of these because if the decals don't work, and we're going to have to fundraise for this project. So it's not cheap. Maybe for future years we could look at expanding it and doing more crosswalks. One thing that we saw when we did the sidewalk decals is we do have to kind of stay alert to if they start peeling up to remove them quickly. So we don't want to take on too much of a expand ourselves beyond what we can handle. But in the future, we should definitely look at some other spots.
Do you have a feel for the projected cost using the decals?
Yeah, let me just double check.
I love the ones in West Concord on the sidewalk.
Right now for the 2 crosswalks, it's $4,650.
Thanks.
Mimi, how resistant are these things to foot traffic? Do they wear pretty well? I mean, car traffic's gonna be a lot harder on them than feet.
They did great for foot traffic. They're actually meant for pavement for foot traffic. Like they use them, outside of convention centers and, to promote businesses for wayfinding. So it stayed for months in West Concord. And originally we had planned on taking them up in October, and they were able to stay in place all the way into December. The only reason we took them up was to not have it impact snow clearing. It did really, really well.
Thanks.
Mimi, I think that this project is fantastic. I hope that you get the resources that you need to give it a go, and then I hope the joy spreads. So thank you.
Okay, any other questions? We'll move on. Mimi, why don't you go to the next item?
Okay, let me go back to my sharing. So then the next one is the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail that folks will remember. So we're at the slideshow. So I've kind of shopped this around to a lot of places. Folks might remember that the original funds that were provided by the Community Preservation Act funding proved to be insufficient. The costs had ballooned dramatically. I was successful, and much thanks to members of this team that helped advocate for me to apply to the Friends of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail. They very generously provided the over $10,000 to make up for the gap in funding. So we're back in action and staying on track to do the set of signs for here. So folks will know that this is the almost 3.5, almost 4 mile path through West Concord. We're having the signs are needing to match the approved branding style guides, and we're just looking at 2 different styles within this set. One is the small directory signs, and the other one is the sort of directional pole and arrow signs. There's already a lot of kiosks, so that this larger one seemed redundant. This type felt rather restrictive. It kind of duplicated the pole and arrow in a less flexible approach and felt kind of unreadable and the dragonfly didn't add much value to what we were looking for. So we're proposing 3 of the small directory signs, one at Giroux, one at Neshoba Brook, like there by the bridge. And then either one at the rifle range, or there's recently been a proposal for a directory sign at Powder Mill Road instead. The idea is that the directories would be directly respond to what's nearby. So for Giroux, the idea is that this would focus on the amenities that are right there, letting people know about the vehicle charging, the bike share, restrooms, and have information about kind of recreational opportunities in Concord overall. For the one at Neshoba Brook, because that's right near West Concord Village, this one would be really focused on local businesses. And the advantage of this mini directory sign is that it's very easy to replace them. And the idea is that this would get replaced probably every other year, so we could update the business directory and not worry about it being out of date. And folks probably know businesses change quite frequently. And then the one either at the old rifle range or at Powder Mill Road, one thought would be at Old Rifle Range, it could kind of talk about the broader bike network. There's similar information that's on further in Sudbury that could talk to folks about the Mass Rail Trail and kind of the broader network of rail trails. Alternatively, if it was at Powder Mill Road, that was previously a Black Concordian neighborhood, and that could kind of have some historical information about the neighborhood overall. So that's sort of a new, so the thought is one directory sign either there or there. Then for the pole and arrow signs, we're looking at doing, was that 1, 2, 3, 5 of these. One would be right at close to the Acton line. I'm not going to make my life complicated and needing to do a survey of exactly where that is. It's going to be kind of proximate to it. Another one at Junction Park that would just help orient people to know where they're at Powder Mill Road, one behind the Garrison building that would be down on the trail itself, and then the Powder Mill Road. And again, this is the one that might alternate with the Old Marlborough Road. At Acton, it would point folks, and we're sort of looking at only things that are exactly on the trail, and to just kind of give people some encouragement, either of like, oh, it's just nearby, or to not get overly ambitious and think like, oh, it's so close that they know what they're up to. For the Acton Town Line, the proposal is for it to highlight Nara Park, the East Action Village. So this is where the Trader Joe's is, Giroux Park, and West Concord Village. And then at Junction Park, again, to encourage people to go to kind of what might be some of the recreational things that they might want to do. Nara Park, Giroux, Assabet River Bluff, and Rideout Park. And part of why highlighting Rideout Park, even though it's not right on the trail, that's really popular for folks with younger kids. But we wanted to kind of highlight that because there's a playground. At Old Marlborough Road, again, highlighting West Concord Village. You might notice the trend of I'm really trying to highlight West Concord Village as a place, almost like, can we think of that as the hub of the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail, and really try to draw people to think of that as a major amenity, because it does have the advantage of the MBTA, food, shopping. While there's not public restrooms, folks are aware of, like, if you go to the cafe, you get to use the restrooms there. At Old Marlborough Road, Davis Field and Sudbury, mostly because there's parking there, and again has restrooms, and the Mass Central Rail Trail, assuming that there'll be a lot of folks that maybe are having that as one of their destinations. Sort of looked at how can it scatter that within the markers to pique people's interest to recognizing that that's another amenity. For behind the Garrison building, there's currently not a formal path to get you from the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail up to the school. But I suspect there's already people that are going along that way and anticipating, this is probably our one time to actually do this set of signs, and that eventually that path is going to be created. So how can we highlight that? And it also might just kind of anticipating that kids might be going that way, and as the marker won't necessarily be pointing people up to the building, but it will help kind of create a landmark along the way to call attention that there's something off the trail. At the Garrison Building, it would highlight Giroux Park, West Concord Village, Davis Field and Sudbury, and Mass Central Ridge. And then at Powder Mill Road, kind of comparable locations. Again, this might alternate with that mini directory. And that's how the breakdown, we're still on track to be able to put this out for bid in May, and then for installation this summer. I welcome feedback from TAC.
Thank you. Who would like to comment? Bill?
I think it's another really great idea. Could you send, I guess, who gets all of our information? Could you just send the slides to our TAC administrator so we can throw them in the record?
Send it to Heather.
Heather, thank you.
And copy it, listen.
That all sounds great. Thank you, Misha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one quick question, which is, taking advantage of the fact that these are gonna be like, location markers. Is there any way to put a number or a sign on it so that if somebody needed to call emergency services or somebody, they could say, I'm near sign XYZ? Because otherwise different people will describe the same sign differently. So location, either a mile marker or, maybe a mile marker, I don't know. It's just something to think about.
Okay, yeah, I'll kind of see if there's, maybe we could do like a little sticker on the bottom or something like that. I'll think.
Yeah, a
see what
little
the options
sticker on
are.
the bottom, a little mile circle or something added on. I think that would have utility because we still haven't had a whole summer season of usage, and there'll be people who are not sure where they are. So I think all this is really good.
So you actually reminded me, I think some of the signage have QR codes.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if I'm imagining that or not, but maybe that could be, one of either the sticker or a sticker, so that would accomplish Mark's objective, and maybe you also provide some more information. It would lead you to a website which could be updated over time or enhanced over time.
That's a good idea. Yeah. And if they're, semi-permanent stickers, if there's a place for them, then this could be done separately.
And just to add, I think you mentioned this the last time you shared with us, but is there some reflective element to these signs to kind of help with visibility and? Or is that
No,
throw some reflective tape on?
Yeah, there's not a reflective element, and we do kind of need to stick with the same style that was approved by the multi-towns. We are going to make sure that I know one of the concerns was about having them too close to the path that they might become, especially the pole and arrow ones for cyclists that might be going underneath the sign. So that we're going to make sure there's a specific guidelines for multimodal trails about it has to be between, I think it's 3 and 6 feet off the trail. Once we get to the nitty gritty of exactly where they're going to be going out with Public Works and folks from the Friends. And we'll be looking for feedback to make sure that we account for that kind of safety height issue.
That's great, because I know also that's a good point, because a lot of users do use the shoulder. So that 3-foot corridor is probably perfect.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Nick, Dan, any comments?
No, it sounds great, Amy.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mimi. Much
Great, thank you very
appreciated.
much.
Okay, so the next item on the agenda is to talk about the latest revised draft. I want to just do this very quick. Our select board liaison, Paul Bohm, said that he had some further comments that he's going to be sending in. What do people generally feel about the maturity of the draft? Are people feeling like it's pretty close or far from finished? Bill, what do you think?
You mean in terms of the materials that were distributed to us the other day?
Well, they're talking about the draft that's been the draft of the charge.
Oh, the
That's been
charge.
posted,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
I
yeah.
got confused with
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, there's other things, but, because I think that, when we feel that it's ready to go, we should run it by the town manager and select board again. But if we're close to, doing that, I could ask Heather to add Paul's comments in there and post it, and we could send it, or we can push off further discussion till next meeting. I don't know what people think.
No, can we hear Paul's comments? Or is there any reason not to?
Can you just give us a general idea of what?
Yeah, a bunch of edit suggestions. General idea, on duties, the bullets that you have in there actually are the duties.
Mhm.
The duties you have there, like reporting to the select board and report, those are one type of duties, but
Mhm.
I think those bullets are really the duties, the job. And I'll have some edits on those, but I think there's a rearrangement. I was struck by the section of the ideal candidate.
Mhm.
In reading those, I don't think any of you are the ideal candidate. So I think it's a different type of section. I haven't seen that type of thing in any chart. I think having qualifications of desired candidates and listing those are probably better than saying the ideal candidate.
Yeah, yeah.
So combining the section under membership with the attributes of, and no one person has all those, but combined you want to have a collection of those skills. So I think that those are the two sort of.
So how would you phrase it? Relevant skills or
Well,
useful skills or
Qualifications, skills,
qualification? Yeah, that's sort of the standard.
et cetera, et cetera.
Qualifications.
So that's typical of other membership sections,
Mhm.
what are the members, skills more than education, so.
Yeah,
Interests, skills. So those are the two sort of mega comments, there's a little bit of arranging, I think you do have most of the duties on there properly, I do see, given what's going on with this agenda elsewhere, I think the prioritization of roadway safety is really high on the list of duties, may not be number one, but I think most of them are there, so it's mostly rearranging and et cetera, those are kind of the comments, but
Okay,
nothing, most of it's there, rearranging or kind of toning down.
would you like to write something up and then we can distribute to TAC members and discuss this further at the next?
Yeah,
meeting?
I'll do
Does
that
sound good?
rapidly, but they're not big changes,
Okay,
they're along the lines I just
okay,
said.
but if you send that relatively soon, people look at it, then we kind of.
What I like about it, it's short, succinct, it's consistent with other charges, you don't have. What you put on the website is one thing, what you put on, you could have much more on the website describing. The charge should really focus on why you exist, what the membership is and what the duties are.
Right, and I think the evolving, evolving duty of, performing this, prioritization task. But also, we need, we'll talk about this, probably in the ranking discussion next, of how we handle live inputs from the community.
One of them, my comment, I think it says. Providing a transportation strat. I don't think TAC provides that strategy. I think you assist in the development of that strategy.
Okay, well, if you agree to put something in writing, we will distribute that and we'll talk about it next time.
I'll get it to you shortly.
Okay, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Rebecca?
So, having done the first draft of this, I appreciate the work done. I know that it's not easy. So thank you to Nick and others who have been working on this. I guess when I first did that revised draft, my main interest was to be very clear and concise for the outward facing piece, similar to the description that's for the select board. So if this is a charge, which is not the outward facing piece, I would like clarification of what the outward facing piece is, because to me, this has gotten very long and tangled, and I'm concerned that we've moved away from the first, or one of the intents of this was, which would be to really present something very accessible to the public that's not in the weeds the way we are. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I suggest everybody think about how to do that and whether there's a separate, the charge is something that's given to TAC. TAC doesn't charge itself, but we can think about creating a clear, easy to understand policy action statement based on the charge, within the charge.
Thank you.
I
So for
think-
example, the description that's up for the select board is 15 lines and really does not have any of the deep dive in the weeds jargon that might be confusing to the general public. So especially if part of our intent is to state a very clear and concise description so that people coming to the town can have a very simple understanding of what TAC does and hopefully feel invited in. That's the kind of thing that I'm hoping that we do as well.
Okay,
Can I comment?
go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I think that's very important to do. And what you're suggesting, Rebecca, and what you started out doing, I think we went down this direction with the charge because it was basically the fundamental empowering document for the TAC. And we felt that we needed to get that straightened out because what we had inherited wasn't very helpful, I thought. Anyway, I think that the issue you're raising is really important, and it's tied up with this, among other things, the workings of the traffic management group, the TMG, and this whole process for setting priorities and how they were established in this current go-around, and whether or not this thing is really a tool that's been developed and how it might be used. All of that, the whole part about what our role is with the public, to me, has become murkier, not clearer. And I think that's the way I would point that out is that the thing that you might call a flow chart that was presented in the first or second or third slide in the last meeting, I found it terribly confusing. I have no idea how information flows. I have no idea who's involved in the flow of information. Well, only a little bit, but I think the whole concept of what the TAC involvement is in the process with the TMG is very much undefined at the moment, and that's a big problem.
Okay. Dan, do you have any comment quickly? I want to wind this up so we get on to the major event.
No.
Okay, Mariana?
Nothing to add.
Okay, Bill?
Keeping my powder dry.
Keeping your powder dry. Okay, all right. So the action is Paul's going to write something. We're going to distribute that to TAC, and we're going to revisit this, including Rebecca's suggestion that Nick is endorsing, that we need a clean description of what TAC does, and we need to figure out how this works with the new TMG and the new ranking tool and prioritization work. And I would add live input of new suggestions and requests. We need to see how that fits.
Mark, can we just add, I'd like to volunteer to take a first stab of that outward facing summary once Paul has submitted his revisions, just as right? I mean, who actually is going to do the draft of the short outward facing piece?
Sure. Yeah. If you want to do that, that's great. And then you could send it to Heather, copying Lisa and me, and Heather can post it for the public and distribute it to TAC members.
But
So
I'll wait
there's
for,
no rush.
sorry, just to clarify, I'll wait for Paul's input on the charge before I do that, because the short
Okay.
piece will be based on where we are.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, if there's no other urgent comment, I will, from TAC members, I will move on to item 7 on the agenda, which is continued discussion with staff and Stantec on the road safety ranking process. So anybody presenting, or are we just kicking it around?
I think it's Alan Cathcart, Director, Concord Public Works. You know, this is sort of a group work activity, so I know I kind of speak up because I tend to do that, but I want to make sure that, you know, there were some questions that TAC had raised. There was, you know, sort of a need and understanding that there really wasn't clarity as far as the entire, you know, what is this particular part of this effort, try and identify and prioritize specific projects that need to be integrated into our construction and roads improvement activities that we're planning for the summer. So Stantec took that, they sort of captured, provided an executive summary that was shared. And I think, you know, the intent was to at least, it's a starting point, so everybody can at least understand what this effort is. And I'd say equally important, what it isn't, from what I mentioned last time around, is this is a tool that's being developed. It's not an off-the-shelf kind of thing. There aren't a lot of these that exist out there in the universe. Concord is kind of moving forward with this, you know, approach to look at activities or interests of road, we're calling them road safety related, you know, needs or interests, trying to capture them, because there's been years of collecting this data. But there's been a concern that it has been sort of only shared with staff, and there's been angst as far as, well, you know, where do these activities or interests stand? And if there was an improvement or something done, well, then, you know, we don't hear anything, it's just off the table. If it's outstanding, or if someone doesn't know that someone may have already raised this, they wouldn't know that. It wasn't an outward facing database. So the interest was to create a master list so we could capture all these activities. The interest was to try and help rank them with certain criteria that we'd explained last meeting in detail, but with some questions, which was based on infrastructure needs, based on people input, and based on places input. And Stantec has been developing this model, this screening criteria that can be applied to every activity, every ask that we've had. So compiling it and trying to get it into a centralized, you know, public facing document was the purpose. And it would then inform the discussions on, do these things then transition into a specific actionable item, a project? And we know that these projects may be fairly small in scope and scale, fairly easy to implement with resources, not a lot, but some resources financially and staff time. Some may be fairly significant, you know, multi-million-dollar interests that really require the attention of the community and maybe commitment for financing, that sort of thing, outside of, you know, the usual funding source. But the real driver was, until last town meeting, we really never had resources and funding to do some of these, you know, address a lot of these interests. And that was a source of angst for staff, because we heard the ask and request, as well as the town, who didn't see any realization of, I've asked, why hasn't anything been done? So we have $2.5 million that was allocated at last town meeting to be spent over a 5-year window, to be targeted towards roadside safety projects that would be complementary, ideally, to the pavement management investments of over $25 million over the next 5 years. So that's kind of what this tool is about, just to set the table. I think the author of the executive summary, Bill Scarpati from our Stantec engineer, is here. And I think maybe just a conversation or something, probably the best way, Bill. What is that? We're hoping to sort of put the back and forth.
Why don't you wanna come sit up?
Sure. Thank you.
And maybe Steve, you can wanna, I think the issue is, just to get a little more clarity. And I really wanna emphasize, this is a tool that's going to help dialogue. And we believe it's really important to try and this is where the rubber starts hitting the road literally. What are these, how is this used by the traffic management group? As well as TAC. And that's a little bit of the dance that we're trying to sort of clarify, with this back and forth. So that's set the table. I don't know, I'll ask Andrea if you want to say anything, because you've been sort of shadowing a lot of this. Do you want to, any comments at this point?
I would really take a close look at the workflow. It was the road safety request management workflow communication that seems to be leaving TAC out of a lot, but I think this should be more involved. That's my opinion, but I'm looking forward to hearing more from the TAC members who might agree or disagree with that.
Paul, do you want to?
Yeah, so I think what's been developed is a first tool to, I don't want to lose Rebecca's comment. It is it's been used for ranking, but I think Stantec or somebody has to refine the tool for future use, because the people part of that was based on the workshops, right? So going forward, how do you fill in, what's the people criteria? You don't have to discuss that now, but to make this a tool that could be used, you got to replace the existing people module with the future people module. So that's the trip, and then it can become a tool. I think the ranking is great. We need the project descriptions, but I really think there's a short, for TAC, there's a short-term need and a longer-term need. The short-term need, I think, is to take this ranking and to do some prioritization, to give feedback to Public Works based on the safety issues. What are the high priority projects this season? Short. That's different from the longer-term piece, which is to get public input through a more organized mechanism, whether that's workshops or series of meetings. But there's a short-term need, I think, for TAC to look at that ranking and for you guys to propose priority projects and to maybe at a public meeting state that and get public comment. But there's not a lot of time to get a lot of public comment to feed into this first round. Longer term, I think TAC has to develop a process for annually, semi-annually, getting public feedback for existing projects and new projects. So I think there's TAC has some, and I'm assuming that the way I understand that TAC is sort of the lead group for suggesting prioritization to the TMG. Final prioritization depends on funding and other things, but so I don't think TAC should shy away from that duty, if you will, that's in your charge, to take that lead. And to use the ranking information to do this first round prioritization soon, and then develop a longer term process for doing prioritization involving the public in a more robust manner. So just, let's move forward with this quote unquote tool we have, improve the tool. But what we have now is something very useful to use, at least to try it out, to see if it works, and how until we actually use the prioritization, we won't really know what the bugs are. So I'd say let's move forward at various pathways.
And I also want to just overlay, again, I always tell people it's not an Easter egg hunt. We want to try and share with you what we learned. So at this point, well, staff has seen generally this database. We haven't focused on it because it's been developing. We haven't really even had a staff meeting to look at the finished product. Bill, fortunately, is working with his team at Stantec, who are the planners as well, for working on the transportation group. So they're very aware of sort of the pinch points and interests. They've been listening, they've been at those charrettes, they've been coming to TAC. So they actually are starting to come up with some concepts, knowing what our roads plan is for the next construction season. So they're going to share that with staff and TMG too, so we can help this discussion kind of move along. And Bill, you've already got some thoughts, and I know we're all anxious and eager to move this forward. Bill especially, because he's seeing things that seem like, well, you know, I'm connecting the dots, but he's been really dealing with the data. And so Bill, maybe part of this, you know, update is we're gonna start talking about some of these projects. And I want to be very clear, we're not looking for perfection this construction season, but we're hoping to get some real projects that there's general consensus that they're important and worthwhile. And if there's lots of questions, then they certainly can be vetted over time. Engineering division is putting out contracts to do big work. These are ancillary jobs that can be fit into those contracts, and that's important. So we don't have to have an immediate answer. We know we can sort of dovetail these in based on the interests of the community, right?
I see that Nick and Rebecca have their hands up. Nick, go ahead. Unmute. You need to.
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry. I recognize the difficulty we have this first year because we're sort of bootstrapping into this entire process and in a sense rushing to get the prioritization done. However, I'm disappointed at this point. TAC hasn't, unless I've missed it, TAC has not seen anything that I would call a list of projects that are actually planned to be done or are being considered to be done. Now, I don't know how TAC members can possibly turn around and talk to the public and say, oh, things are going fine or anything. I just don't get that. Even the tool document that was sent to us yesterday, I was still looking forward to seeing what the names were of those 20 or 25 projects that were listed, some of which cost a lot of money. And there's still no indication of that. I think TAC is very much in the dark about what is actually happening. And I do recognize that we're sort of bootstrapping in and, you know, we're trying to catch up, but I just don't get what TAC's role is in the process.
Nick, that's a fair statement. I will tell you, staff has also not seen this yet. This is the pace of this project. We're about to start revealing this today. And, you know, this is the beginning of making this information available. So it's literally just a matter of time and resources. And it's, you know, I would say before we had a process we could sort of agree to, we didn't want to release too much information, but we're at that point where I think Bill's going to be talking about some of that today.
Okay, so Rebecca, I'll get to you in a second. I just want to note that Bill just handed us some it was Bill who handed it, right? Some identified projects, so we can is it possible to send this to the other members online? Can somebody or?
I can get a PDF distributed.
Yeah, we need to send this to the other members online so they can participate. Go ahead, Rebecca. You had your hand up for a while.
Do they know what we're looking at here?
Yeah, so we're,
Go ahead, Rebecca.
go ahead.
So I share a lot of Nick's concerns. I guess one of the most immediate questions I have is if there is time pressure for TAC to come up for a process this year to help add the nuance to the prioritizations, what is that timeline? Like when would we actually need to have a process in place for this year? That's my first question.
Great question. Steve, you want to talk about sort of the kind of design on the roads and construction schedule and how that might work?
Yeah, Steve Dupin, town engineer. So we have two contracts for paving this year, two major contracts. We already have the bids and we put in the contracts together. We expect to start construction, and that's paving of these streets. And George there, he's our project manager. Let's say in the spring. Now, our first goal, and we have had discussions with Stantec, Bill, was to try and see within these corridors to be paved starting this year, what we can do for smaller safety improvements, and Bill will go into that. I know he had planned on talking about that bit. And those improvements may not be on the request list, the 103
103 now, yeah.
103 projects, they may not be. But that, reviewing that, the list for those streets, it is, yet is started. But, so those will be smaller projects, those definitely fit within the budget. And those can be executed along with the paving contracts. Now, if there are bigger projects on the list within those corridors, TNG and TAC will make a decision on how to proceed with those projects, because we have to figure out whether those projects will be the first priority projects. If they're a big project, there's a design element to that will probably take a year or so, and then construction will follow. So larger projects within those corridors I do not see them being implemented within this construction season. So.
A larger project.
Um,
So I know Rebecca had another question, but are you following up on the first
Yes,
question?
I'm following up because actually I didn't hear an answer to my question. So my question was what the deadline is specifically for TAC. If we are supposed to contribute to the prioritization this year, what is our deadline as in a date for when we have to have that those inputs available? Because maybe I misunderstood, but I understood that this year is a bit of a rush, and so it has to be quick, but yet TAC will still be involved. And then I heard, there might be chance for going forward to have a more thoughtful process. But I think it's really important for TAC, if we are actually participating in prioritization this year, I think it's essential for TAC to have a very clear deadline for when you all would need that input.
Okay, so we can stab at it. If there are projects on the list that will go through the prioritization process, and there are larger projects, we know for a fact that those will not be built this year. The design can get started. But if there are smaller projects that can be incorporated, there probably would not be a lot of preparation work. So we haven't picked a deadline yet. But I'd say within the next couple of months, which would probably take us to, sometime in May. I think decision can be made by then, whether we want to include that project or projects within the paved streets or not.
Okay, so
Does that help?
Just hold on a minute, Rebecca. So I want to clarify something. So Steve, you said that there are two pavement contracts designated, right?
Yes.
And I believe you said that associated with those, there are some improvements that probably relate to safety. Is that correct?
That's
And that's
correct.
already determined, so TAC doesn't have to weigh in on that. So what TAC is dealing with is whether, maybe two things, whether from the list of ranked projects or any other ideas that come up separately that are safety related, whether TAC would like to prioritize some, taking into account the size of the project and things like that. But would TAC also be looking at whether any of those safety projects on the safety list are in the same geographical locations as the paving projects in order to see if they could be coordinated? Is anything being done there? Because I feel like we have at least two big streams running, and I'm not sure in terms of timing and TAC's involvement, how the two interact, and maybe there's two different timetables. Does that make any sense?
Can I
Go ahead, Bill, please. Yeah,
can I
please.
just step in?
I'd like to hear from you.
So, good morning, everyone. Bill Scarpati from Stantec. From the last meeting, there was definitely a sense of different expectations, from the TAC and even from the public. There were also questions about the ranking process and, not understanding where the scores come from. And so what we, attempted to do was to put together an appendix, so to speak, show the details, the executive summary, and, include some of the, the feedback loops. And I thought somebody brought up a good point of establishing milestones. I think, which is what we're talking about a little bit here, is, and again, this workflow from, Stantec's perspective was an existing workflow that the town had. And we were tasked to come in and help manage all the safety requests, compile them, assist in the ranking process, and help PMG and the TAC work together to try to get through identifying two things. One is these large capital improvement projects, which you have a list of the project name. We have the data ready to go. We can give you the whole list. We certainly want to share it. We have ideas that Steve is touching on.
That will be extremely helpful because that will give it a sense of reality.
Right, so there's 103 projects, some are minor, that will be included as part of the pavement management program. Let's talk a little bit about the pavement management program. There's two contracts. One is for 2026 and one is for 2027.
Let me correct you there. The
Okay,
two contracts, they're both 2-year contracts.
okay,
Yes.
Okay.
26 and 27.
okay, so there's,
Could I ask a question? Could you identify what the contracts are, what locations are? I think that would help
Multiple locations.
generally.
we have them mapped, we have them in this database.
Yeah, one of the contracts focuses on the north side of Route 2.
Okay.
So multiple streets on the north side. Again, it's a 2-year contract, work to be done this year, 26, and work to be done next year. And then the second contract is south of Route 2, similarly over a 2-year period.
Can you give us just a little bit more information? I mean.
What streets they are?
Yeah, just like what's the primary artery that, is being addressed on the north side and then the south side?
Yeah, we have it all mapped out. We can provide a GIS map of that. The plan, the intent is to put that on the public website. Those projects specifically, where they are, the locations, all that. In addition to any roadway safety improvements that would be tied to those projects, small projects. So these projects include 6 or 7 miles of resurfacing paving.
Okay,
So it's a new black canvas. It gives you the opportunity to do new striping, safety improvements.
so it'd be great if TAC and the public could see the map of those paving locations.
To be clear, there is,
Okay, so this will be exactly what is on the agenda, 4 PM next Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay, all right.
one of the points.
The big reveal will be Wednesday.
Nobody disagrees.
Let's be clear, we were able to get the funding
Mhm.
for a 5-year roads program based on a lot of research, development of a need.
Mhm.
That need has been identified through town meeting and on the website as far as our 5-year plan. So the roads have been identified, so it isn't a secret, it's out there. Now we're starting to talk about the construction design documents associated with that. So I think it's part of just getting familiar with what's the information and where is it available?
Hmm.
Because we've already identified those roads for this next construction season. It's out there, it's been there for a long time. This isn't new information, it's building on that information.
Right.
Now we're about to get into the design detail. And this is the opportunity where you start looking at, well, how can you integrate?
If it's, but in terms of communicating it to TAC and the public, the GIS approach is good and the list is good and you can point us to existing documents and then we'll be prepared for the meeting next Wednesday.
In fact, we already have the 5-year list posted on the website, right?
And-
For a while.
Go ahead, yeah.
And what website? Where is that?
So it's right,
Okay.
it's on the the engineering webpage, there's a link at the top of the page, it's an interactive dashboard.
Okay,
It's available to the public, it's been there for quite a long time, that has the language from the article is approved at last year's town meeting at the bottom. And
Okay,
every road is color coded, it's a 5-year plan, it's pretty interactive to anybody, doesn't require special login.
okay, so the portal is the DPW, CPW website.
Like,
Okay.
engineering page at the top, there's a 5-year road.
Okay,
capital plan,
good.
link to the dashboard there.
Thank you, Mr. Mickelson.
I was
Okay.
wondering, which of these projects, or is there a way to identify which of these projects in what phase they are, like if they are ready for construction or like in design? Because that might be helpful for TAC when they're prioritizing the projects to figure out like what's gonna be ready for like next construction season, you know, in terms of.
yeah, we need to
Right.
mesh schedules in
Right.
some respect.
Yeah.
Paul, very quick, if you could. go
Well, I'm
ahead.
just trying to cut through the information.
Yeah.
So here's a deadline of sort of Mayish. You need input from TAC on the road safety priorities, which is based on this information plus the longer list. So now, some of those may be in progress, some of those may be at locations that are infeasible. But I think TAC needs to take a look at this list and prioritize maybe it's the spending of the $500,000 that you keep talking about. Then there'll be constraints on that. Constraints, we can't do it. It's already been programmed or the design's gonna take too long. Let
Yeah.
TAC come up with this list. And then you guys can put the constraints on it, but you know, there's so many interacting pieces. I wanna give TAC some guidance on what they do in the next couple of months and what information they have. And, you know.
So we,
That's,
yeah,
that's
we
a
need,
short
this
term
system.
assignment.
yes,
But also look at the whole list because they're,
oh, absolutely,
they're,
oh, I'm sure. And
they're
there's
from
good
two
things.
thousand and nineteen,
Yeah.
they're requests that are repeated.
Oh,
There's
absolutely, we're
multiple requests on the same project, so, you know, you start to build out a schedule.
before 2019, wait,
In
Marianne?
none of these have-
Excuse me, one second, Marianne, do you have?
So to clarify, is nothing currently scheduled for construction, right?
Paving, there is.
On this, no,
No.
these have not been assigned, these are all open activities.
And I think the town and TAC and everyone are doing a great job being really strategic about this. I know we've been working on this a long time. Is there an argument, though, in the interest of getting something built this year? To kind of, while we're still working this out, identify something kind of within that $500,000 a year price point that can kind of stand alone and just let the public see and get something done. Cause I think also there's a lot of public frustration that none of this has been happening, this, you know, for several years. And is that something that, you know, while we're still working on this, identify one of these projects that the town can go ahead and execute this year? And I have to run out in a second, but just.
Thank you, Marianne, thank you.
Yeah.
So, can you answer that, Bill?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I can give you more data. This, what I just passed along is, the bar chart slide that breaks down the infrastructure people in place to score, but it has the project name, you know, the ranking score, the request date. And, it was a bigger list. We can certainly provide this, in an Excel format. And you can certainly start to work with that.
Is Excel good for all the TAC members,
Yes, please.
the format? Okay.
Yep.
Nick, you have your hand up, go ahead, unmute.
Yes, I'm curious. I'm on the engineering website. I'm on current projects. I don't see anything relevant. I see inflow 2025 inflow and infiltration project, Spencer Brook Culvert and Guardrail replacement, the Main Street Baker Ave intersection. And
I just
everything
sent
else is from prior years. Everything else is prior years.
Alyssa sent a link, and so does it come up as a map? or
It's at the top of the engineering page.
Top of the engineering page,
Engineering
Public
page.
Works
Go to the
Engineering.
Index page, let's go to the engineering page.
Hold on.
I just emailed the link out to TAC.
Check your email, Nick, you should get a
Okay.
link. I haven't looked at it yet, I'm chairing the meeting.
I'd also just want to put in, again, to try and help, we're all after the same thing. We want to start doing some real projects. I think I'd be willing to offer, and this is, you know, I haven't talked to Steve yet, this is a list which can mean many things to many people, depending on what you think it is. I think it might be helpful if we were to come back to TAC and maybe walk them through what these projects are, at least maybe the top 25 or something. And there's many, but I think it's worth highlighting and giving you the benefit of going, well, what does that actually mean? You know, you see an intersection for $600,000 is different than a crosswalk for, 4,000. But I think we can, walk you through using the ranking as a place to start a focus. That's all it is. But,
Okay, and that's what you have. You have the top 25 on that list of
Yep.
woodshed.
and if we came back and sort of walked through, what are these with a schematic, so people can see what is it we're talking about conceptually, it will really help them understand, oh, I get it, yes, I see that, and then we can kind of work, I'm saying collaboratively up front to be efficient. And whatever back and forth happens, I think the real question Rebecca asked, and it's a legitimate one, you don't want to be in a box of, well, we missed the deadline. Some of these things, I imagine, can probably be incorporated midsummer if we agree that they're a priority and we can work with a contractor to do it. Some may not, and I think we have to have that discussion.
And that's the constraint, after the party, if we can't do it this year.
Exactly.
But you gotta start somewhere.
So we know, and again, I respect and appreciate what I sense is the eagerness. But we're all trying to get on the same boat, rowing in the same direction. And this is a new process. I'm proud of it, and it's not perfect. And I think we really have to be careful, what is it? And it's highlighting things that people have identified for many years. Some of them may not rise to any significant, universal agreement, and some may be universally, of course, this is important, and I think we just gotta be thoughtful about it, and it's gotta be, I appreciate process diagrams and flow diagrams. There's gotta be a back and forth with TAC, with TMG. It's a new tool for both of us, all of us, as well as Public Works Commission, who historically is the gatekeeper of at least explaining what our projects will be. And it's based on, some design that engineering has to go through to get the work out. Steve, you can weigh in.
Well, I get it, and please don't take this the wrong way. Over the past several months, I've heard from a lot of individuals here that take your time, get it right, Paul? And focus on the selection criteria, which is what we spent a lot of time with Bill on getting it right. But at the last meeting, it sounded like, okay, we've heard enough, get it done. In the meantime, engineering, we weren't waiting. We wanted to get projects done because as far as the pavement management, we were given a job. Get your PCI up to 85 and by year 5, so start spending money. So Joe has worked hard at putting these two contracts together. So we're ready for construction. So the first order of business here is to correlate the paving streets with safety. Anything on that list? Let's look at those. That's what we should do here at the next staff meeting.
Can we help them see that? Can we identify, because they don't need to be looking at the roads program you do.
Right.
You also have this list, which again, we were all just getting it, it was a draft before. But staff, I mentioned this last meeting, you have professional staff who can connect some dots. Bill's already doing that. We should come back to TAC and talk about where we're seeing some of these opportunities. And next week,
We may have that next week.
So
Right.
there's a joint meeting for
We
TAC.
can fit some in next week.
And we maybe have some conversations about, and if they're controversial, good to know. We'll set it aside. If it's universally, yeah, finally, great, we can move on it. But we don't have to force anything. We have a real opportunity.
This
We
is,
just have to be a
this
little
is
bit
what I'm trying to
Yeah.
clarify. I absolutely agree. It's very important for us to all get on the same page. TAC can only advise if it has the professional input and the facts, but we have I'm very, very happy to hear that we have the pavement management, the paving contracts in place and going forward. And we have this list. Those are two good things. But in terms of coordinating the two things, besides TAC's own, institutional memory of what people have been asking for and current public input and all that, I see a number of ways these two things cross together in a complicated way. So one thing is, if you're paving a street, you can do some striping and whatever, which may answer some requests and desires, but also you may be able to simultaneously use a little bit of the safety money to even further enhance it. But I also see a case where, I look at something, improve a crosswalk or something here, there's sort of a negative correlation. What if that condition of that road is poor and you improve the crosswalk, but you're gonna have to rebuild that street in 3 years? Why would you spend the money, the safety money, to redo the crosswalk if you're gonna tear the thing up in a few years? So there's a lot of interaction, am I right? And staff knows about this, but TAC doesn't.
Yeah, we're not looking to stripe or pour pavement. When we do a project like that, there's typically a 100-foot limit, where you're gonna put new signs, stripe it, and then, that's sort of your pearl, and then you kind of string your pearls together with the street paving. So we want to be smart about that.
Yeah,
So-
it's about being
so
smart.
I think that's pretty standard.
But how do you involve TAC in that process? Because you guys are smart and professional, and we're not professional. I won't say we're not smart, but
We value
What can
your
we
input
add?
on the ranking prioritization. So we have
Okay.
a list. We want to get you the Excel file. As Alan mentioned, we can talk more about and elaborate. I think the Excel file will shed a lot of light
Good.
more on what you're seeing as just a name. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of columns, and it's a big.
okay, how do we, some of this, it's pretty easy to geographically locate something. Some of it's a little more challenging. Is there a way of mapping this out? And also, is there a way of segregating this into less than $100,000, 100,000 to 500 and above 500 or something? Because are we asking TAC to talk about prioritization of things that are going to require separate funding or new funding?
The good news is not this year. So we have to break this.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm saying, because whatever we don't have to do means we can
The
do.
problem is we keep putting everything into we gotta get very targeted for what we're trying to achieve this time around. This time around is we're providing a database, and now it's been sort of, we can share it with TAC, staff will have it. Process is, we want to identify those more obvious opportunities using this list as a resource. We've never had this before. It's always been top of mind for the last ask. We forgot about the ones 10 years ago that are equally important. We are finally capturing all these into one location that we can reference. Mark, you talked about, can a database be sorted? Of course it can. You can sort it in many ways. The this ranking was intended to be based on sort of experience. What our consultant is recommending are important, criteria, but it doesn't mean the individual isn't going to look at the last on the list and say, you know what, the only reason it's on the list is because there's a people score, there's no infrastructure score, there's no place score. Well, that's worth knowing. If they have a question about it, then we can revisit that. Well, why isn't there a place score? Why isn't there an infrastructure score? It just allows you to start thinking about it. And that's all this is. You can look at it, begin to think about it, and intelligently schedule things. The process that you described about for funding is why we need to set up a good meeting with TAC at the right time. And as Paul mentioned, whether it's an annual, biannual, we can always have these things so you can start thinking about, do we want to be looking at anything for town meeting article that might be beyond what the roads or safety funding can offer? And that would be something maybe in the fall, because then you could be contemplating, do we want to you know, do we want to be the advocate for this particular project? You have plenty of time to do it. Staff can participate, support. That's how the process will work. Let's understand, we're not there yet, but that's what we want to do in an iterative process to work with you folks to say, it's a dance. And, you know, sometimes you'll take a lead and sometimes staff will take a lead, and ultimately the community will decide if they want to spend money and resources on it. So that's why I say this tool is just to get the dialogue going so we don't drop things because we forgot. And, you know, the ranking is simply based on criteria that we believe is objective. And if there's some subjective interest or political interest, quite honestly, it should be going through TAC to have that dialogue. It's appropriate. That's what town's about. It shouldn't go to the engineering division to say, we demand this because we got our entire neighborhood to yell at Steve Dufresne and his team. That's not the way we want to operate.
Hopefully will.
Well, let me be clear, that has happened.
Of course, I know.
None of us want that to continue to happen. And we have resources now, and that's the funding, which allows us to have this conversation. This is a success. I'm sorry to say, this is a success. It's a little bit messy.
Yeah.
This process is a little messy, we get it, but you know, I think we're heading in the right direction.
Messy is okay. So, what I want to know
Sorry.
right now is, no, thank you. What I want to know right now is, do TAC members have questions for, Bill and the staff that's here? Because this is a good opportunity to ask them. And it sounds like we're going to get the spreadsheets. We have the map on the engineering website. And we're gonna get more deep dive into, hopefully we'll prep ourselves ahead of time, but in the joint meeting next week with Public Works on the paving program. Do I hear any questions from TAC members, either online or in person? Everybody's totally clear?
Nick has one.
Yeah, I have one. The map that's on the engineering website, it says these are the years the various paving projects are going to be done. So that's all that means is we're going to pave those roads that year. There's no indication of any other work being done on those roads. Am I interpreting that correctly?
That's correct.
At this point, yes.
We're also, I want to say, part of the deliverable we're working with Stantec is not just the list and database. But we talked about a GIS tool that can then locate these activities on a map, you know, so that people can look at it. So that's also forthcoming, and that'll be really helpful. So Nick, when you can look at one data and look at the roads program, they can look at that. And I again, staff will be doing the same thing. So that if there's opportunities and we're looking for guidance or support, we can advance it with the right schedule, whether it's through the Public Works Commission or TAC or some other entity. It could be MassDOT, it could be the fact that a grant's coming. So we'll be using those two resources to keep things, you know, on our radar so they can be integrated and phased appropriately.
Okay, Rebecca? You have your hand up?
Yep. Thank you, Mark. So just to clarify, I have many questions, but I don't think they can be answered in the time that we have left. So I'll hold them until we have more information.
Okay, we have information coming. So if TAC members want to stick around, I'm sure they have more questions than we can ask. If we have a forum, we continue the meeting. But I would like to take a little bit of public comment at this point. I know Linda Neiman has her hand up, and there's probably some people in the room might want to comment. Go ahead, Linda.
Hi, I actually have to jump off in like 30 seconds, so I'm going to try to get it all in. So Alan and Steve, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and I understand that you have a job to fix the paving, right? And you want to get started on that. So, but part of this process was this prioritization and ranking, which hopefully won't slow you down, but also it feels like there's some missing parts. Like it sounds like if you want to get started, TAC should review those immediate projects to see if anything can be added to improve safety. But going forward, this prioritization tool needs to be refined. Right now, it's 75% infrastructure, and it's really not clear where safety is included in there for vulnerable users, not just folks in cars. it would be super, super helpful if we could see the spreadsheet of parameters that was used for this scoring. Like, for example, is Complete Streets compliance one of those parameters? And then what is the risk to vulnerable users? ADA compliance, just seeing that spreadsheet all out would be really helpful to be super transparent. And connectivity across town, that should also be a score that we use in the matrix to come up, to do the ranking. But right now it's very obscure, and the thing I think I'm speaking for a lot of residents when I say the thing we care most about is safety for vulnerable users, and it's just not clear right now in the current workflow. I'm sorry, I can't stay. I actually have to jump off for a work meeting, but I want to say I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I understand the pressure that you're under, and I'm happy to talk later. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Karen, go ahead.
Hi, Karen, Upland Road, Concord. I want to provide probably more objective feedback. I think a lot of what I observed in this meeting is people talking past each other. Very specifically, I think there's a product being developed and there are users and there's a disconnect between the two. Yes, there is a prioritization process with scoring that has been presented. I think there's some uncertainty in whether or not the scoring in it is what is appropriate. And we've only seen the output of that prioritization tool. For this to work, I think the users, so the TAC and the public, need to see the input to the tool. We very specifically need to see this list, which was initially described as 230 items. It was down to 170 at the last meeting. I'm hearing 103 went into the tool. We need to see the list. That list needs to explain what the problem is. So what problem is that project going to address? We need to see its scoring relative to the prioritization tool. And then we can understand the priority list that comes out. Because now we don't understand the list. And initially we don't know the list that went in. So I would recommend that that list be made available, the input list. And then you can do a deep dive with maybe a half a dozen of the items in that list to understand how they are scored. And that'll tell you whether or not your prioritization tool is correct. It's what the public is asking for. So that's my recommendation.
Thank you, Karen. Is there any public comment from in the room?
I'm just hung up on
liaison council.
I'm just hung up on semantics.
Mhm.
What we've been talking about is a ranking tool.
Mhm.
The prioritization that follows uses the ranking tool, but gives public input and other criteria. So just for the record, and I think everybody agree that the ranking tool is a tremendously useful input, but it's not the final prioritization. Right?
Right.
Thank you.
Right. And again, as Alan was saying, databases can be queried and processed in different ways and plotted, etc. And as Karen is saying, the inputs have some of their information and particularity stripped off when they're entered into the tool. Am I correct, Bill and Steve, in saying that one of the reasons for the reduction in number of items was that some were found to be duplicates in some term? Was there any other reason why things were thrown off besides either duplicate or they've already been done?
No, mostly duplicates, complaints about the same issues. All the requests and the activities came as old as 2019 up to today. And it's a dynamic list. There's a request comes in today, it gets added.
Okay.
And it may be a duplicate. It goes attached to that project.
Okay. So I think that's, getting common understanding of some of these facts helps, obviously helps understand what we're dealing with. So we're going to get the list. Is it practicable to get the list of inputs in some form? You have it, right? And was the identification of things as duplicates, that was a manual process?
No, so that's the beauty about GIS.
Mm-hmm.
So all the requests are mapped, all the pavement management projects are all mapped. And so you can do a spatial join. Say,
Okay.
hey, we have 3 requests here on this list.
Mm-hmm.
They go with this pavement project. That's the process we're going through right now. If they're simple, low-cost safety improvements, they will get attached to the pavement management project and drop off of this list.
Okay, so is that has that happened already or not? That some things have dropped off, because again, it's important for us to realize things that we don't need.
And it's underway.
Okay,
We're trying to get engineers out for field measurements and the weather really hasn't been cooperating. So we're doing a lot of desktop review, but certainly there's a lot of opportunities, just by doing that simple join. So we're looking at them right now.
okay.
Yeah, I think, Mark, I think you're also asking about the original list. So there was a list of complete streets projects.
Right, we had that full list.
Right, your list of the cut through streets that was a study done.
Yep.
There's a list of requests, public requests that was maintained by the TMG. Was a list, and a couple others.
Yeah, Mothers Out Front, the West Concord master plan from 2019.
And all of those come together with 228. I think that's what we started with. But we have all that information that can be provided.
Okay. Karen, you still have your hand up. Is that a mistake? I don't see. Anyway.
Yes, that's a mistake. Sorry.
That's okay. Well, it sounds like we've got a lot of information coming to us, and we have the appendix that Bill put together, describing things. We had the further discussion today. I do think that it's important for us to figure out exactly what is already being done and TAC doesn't have to do, and what TAC's role is. And again, looking at the price of some of the projects, which again, I assume that there's, these are rough estimates that could either, in some cases, be subsumed into a paving project, but in some cases might be an underestimate. I wonder whether anybody on staff or Bill has suggestions in terms of should TAC prioritize for the near term, looking at the lower cost projects, or try to focus on our role primarily as responsive to expressed public need rather than cost or other considerations like combination with paving contracts.
Yeah, I would say at this point,
How can TAC help is what I'm sort of
anything over
saying.
50,000.
Yeah.
I would start to look at those.
Okay.
Assuming
why
that
is
a lot of the lower cost ones may get attached to the pavement management project.
Okay, that's very helpful. That's
And-
very helpful.
And also, when we still have to do a field evaluation, and there will be more projects that there's no existing activity or request for, they will be added to this list.
Mhm.
So again, the list will be dynamic. We want. The great thing is we've got it all compiled. We've got a ranking score to it. We want to share it. We want, in order for this tool to be successful, there needs to be ownership of it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen where we build something, deliver it, turn the keys over, and it fails. So, and I think you touched on it earlier in your discussion on what that process is. What are the milestones? Who's going to own it? From TMG, from TAC. Who are the champions of it, right? Because there's a coordination effort that has to happen for this to be successful, to maintain the ranking in the tool. the milestones are key, like, this year is gonna be a little accelerated, but certainly for next year, there's gonna be the budget season, and hopefully some of these will be ranked, and you'll be, there's a milestone of presenting it to the public at a tax, sometime in this time frame. Some of these projects go to engineering or planning, survey, design. There's a 25% design, maybe that's shared within the TAC environment to the public. Or it could be, if it's a larger project, it could certainly be a separate public participation meeting. Any transportation workshop meetings, workshop from the public in general, they could be part of the people score going forward, or not. It's a snapshot in time. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So I like the analogy that you used, Bill, about this being a car. We're taking it out for a ride. We're doing a shakedown. One of the things that occurs to me in this process for this year is that in order to evaluate how the car is actually performing on the road, there needs to be a sufficient staff time and budget to do that. In your view, is there sufficient staff time and budget for an evaluation of how this is going to actually work? Or do we need to have additional budget and additional staff to accomplish that?
I don't know if I can answer that at this point until we see a little more progress.
Okay, so I guess maybe what I could say is, can you keep that question in mind?
Yes.
And as we go forward on this, and as we continue to talk about it, and see how it's actually working in practice, can you, in, whatever time period, 6 months, say, I think we need to have another, extend this contract, or, have another staff person, or have additional resources so that we can accomplish the goal of seeing if this thing is working, or where it can be improved, changed, etc. Okay, I think that's really key, because right now there's a lot of moving parts, there's a lot of discussion, it's a brand new car. We'll see how it actually works on the road. But if we don't have enough time to do that, if nobody has enough time, if nobody's built in the time, then we're not going to get a very important piece of information, which is the evaluation piece. So that's my.
I agree. It's a great point.
So, Bill, you were saying that, and it surprised me a little bit, but it's good information. You were saying perhaps tax shouldn't focus on some of the lower cost things because they might become incorporated in paving programs. So knowing what could be incorporated sooner the existing contracts, and also what might likely be able to be incorporated in the next round of paving contracts, that would be helpful. But I have a question about, for example, an item, library crossing, $300,000. How does, in terms of like biting off something and digesting it, how does a $300,000 fit with a $500,000 average over 5 years, per year average over 5 years? Is that something that ends up being $150,000 spread over, on each of 2 years, or is it a single thing, or how do we think about the dollar amounts, or should we?
Mark, can I offer the following?
Yeah.
Because we're getting granular, and it's too granular at this point. What I'd suggest is let staff work with Stantec. We're gonna have a quick turnaround. We're gonna have a public meeting next week. Yeah, I think we'll be prepared to talk a little bit more about this.
Right.
This is all new information. Everybody needs to see it and digest it a little bit and better understand before we start parsing it. I fully expect over the next few months, there's going to be a fairly necessary communication between staff and TAC on where are we going. So, I think we should be planning on coming back once you've had a chance to look at the list, once you've had a chance to share the road pavement, program, and then we can start having, a walkthrough and a discussion on how best does this back and forth work? And let us help you understand, we've identified and prioritized these areas because they are along the route. We've already matched it. Hopefully we're in agreement that, oh, we understand. And if you don't, we can explain it. If you have questions on what about this particular project, I saw this, it was, why not? We can have that discussion. That's the beginning of the conversation. We haven't had that because we haven't had the information to have that back and forth.
Okay.
Now, then the iterative process would be, what's the right back and forth? What's the right schedule?
Right.
We're gonna take a little bit more upfront so we get our a handle on it. What is it? What is it not?
I understand, but I just want to say that, if TAC and the public, actually, I think TAC is being asked to actually be granular in the sense that, every project matters to some people more than other people, and, I understand what you're saying. Some of this is going to be worked out as we go, and things are gonna get associated with paving projects. This is new information for us, but it's only the tip of the iceberg, so to speak, in terms of all the implications of infrastructure, under the road infrastructure and, et cetera, et cetera. So, but I do think that, I can't see how PAC can be helpful without being granular on some of these things, unless all we do is we just speak in sort of vague generalities. I don't know. But anyway, all this information is good. Any more comments from TAC members, questions? We're gonna have some new information to digest. Not hearing any. I will say that, and Paul, do you want a last word? No? Okay, and you're on the hook for writing some, tribes related, suggestions. So I will adjourn the meeting.